Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Since that's kind of a stand-in, as we've told you already, I've only known about this since about 8:30 this morning, and then I had volunteers to deal with, so I haven't had a lot of time for prep, so we'll see what ends up.
Hey, that's better than me finding out at noon when you were already out to lunch figuring out what was going on. It's like, oh no!
Anyway, so we'll get to our first plant here. I think we'll start here, and we're actually going to end up going to the Asian Valley, and then up maybe through the Lath House and into the Oak Grove. So the first one here is a pretty cool sage. This is one we planted last summer, summer 2011. We aren't quite sure how hardy this is, but this is Salvia oxyphora. I believe it's from Bolivia region, if I remember right. If you need to look at the flowers on this one. After I come out of here, you should walk out through here. You can actually get real close, or even right here. But this is a species. It's only been in cultivation for a few years, at least, that it's been widely available. But really cool blossoms on this. It's been flowering since late May, early June. I'll pass around a flower here. It has some ants crawling on it, but there are little hairs all over the individual florets. Really cool, fast-growing flower over, like I said, a very long time. It hasn't had any issues yet, but it has not had a real winter to be through. This is a sheltered corner, and being that we only went down to about 20 degrees last winter, it wasn't a real test. So we'll see, hopefully in the next year or two, really how hardy it is. Very easy to propagate from cuttings. It does not make seed very readily, from what I've been told. And it's believed that it might be, it's native to riparian areas, and it's believed that whenever a branch breaks off, it washes down the stream, and then it lodges in the ground and it roots readily that way. So it's not really reproducing by seed. It's just a really cool one to look at. But before we get going, you may want to look at that or come back here later on. I opened up the door there so I can get a little bit closer. But that came up from the ground this year, and it's been a little bit stoloniferous. Not too bad, though. Really great foliage. It's been very clean.
So you get to see a lot of the hummingbirds around here. Have you ever seen one on there?
I have not seen any on this one yet.
Because it looks like a perfect hummingbird plant.
But you have to look at the florets. They're really cool. They're fuzzy. And the ants like them. So I'm assuming there's nectaries around there. And they're stealing the sugar from all of those nectaries. That is Ficus auriculata, or Ficus roxburghii is another name you'll see it under pretty often. It's a dieback perennial for us here. A little further south, zone 9, it's going to be woody probably. For us here, like I said, though, it dies back.
Is that what you're talking about?
That big rounded leaf with the really deep veining, yeah, that's Ficus auriculata. This hibiscus back here is one of my favorites for this late September. It starts to flower. It's Hibiscus Magellanica. It's a species from coastal Japan, southern Japan. It's very closely related to the Confederate rose, which is Hibiscus mutabilis. This dies to the ground each winter. It comes up, gets that tall each year. But at this time of the year, you get these pastel, or this white with a pastel pink blush blossoms, and followed by, typically it makes fuzzy seed heads here in a few weeks. I'm a little out of breath as I went to get a prop. But this is just a nice, interesting hibiscus you're not going to see very often. But other than it lasts about a month and a half. But I just really like it. Just it's subtle, flowers at a time of the year, things you think of slowing down, and it's just starting to get going.
Well, most of the other hibiscus are kind of done.
Yes. And this is one our next plant here is one this is the first I've seen it flower. I don't know a whole lot about it. I should have looked it up. But, so this is new for flowering, anyways, for me. This is Hadikim maximum. This was wild collected material from Scott McManahan out of Georgia. He collected it in Southeast Asia several years, or probably 5 or 6 years ago is my guess. This is the first time we've actually gotten flowers on it. It tried to flower last year, but it was budding around the time of frost. This year it's just starting to flower for the first time. And it has a light fragrance, not overly strong, but the individual floret is quite large, even in comparison to, say, behind you, the white starburst. So
Hadikim maximum?
Maximum, yeah. The name's down there if you want to take a picture of that. I noticed that earlier, but this is one I want to talk about a little bit. This is a Chinese plant here. This is Ranunculus Dependent. It was originally brought in the country as a buddleia. For years they thought it was a buddleia. It's this nice shrub. It's just starting to actually really come into flower now, though some of the shoots have been flowering for a couple weeks. What you have most of the second half of the summer and until it starts to flower, actually have these silvery green inflorescence before bud stalks, I guess you'd say. And then they finally start to open. You get these lavender florets on them. And it has the nice chains of blossoms. Flowers for weeks it'll probably flower until frost now.
Was that in Denny's garden?
Yes, I think Denny has this at his garden as well.
Because I went straight to it. And
Yeah, it's a pretty cool plant. And like I said, for a long time they thought it was a buddleia when it was first brought in the country.
Is it the same family as buddleia? I can't quite see it. I think it looks like Lamiaceae.
Yes, I think they lump buddleia into Lamiaceae now. It's either that or Scrophulariaceae. I can't remember which. They've thrown the buddleias around a little bit recently. So, Ranunculus Dependent. And here I can get you the label.
Lovely name.
So if you can't tell what I'm saying, here's the
We got
name.
one from Harriswood.
Yeah, that's where the original ones came in from.
He sold it as
A buddleia. Yeah.
Huh.
There you go. So let's see. Oh, and on this side, not one that's used a lot. I'm going to step in through here. You're on the wrong side to see the foliage, but the foliage is not the coolest thing at this time of the year. This is one of the hardy gingers. This is Zingibergia myoga, and I forget which cultivar this one is. This is silver arrows. In the spring, or when it flushes early in the summer, it has variegation to it. This time of the year, it's already lost its variegation, but this is the time of the year that it's in flower. And if you go down here, you have this differentiates them significantly from the Hadikiums, which have the flower stalks on top. The Zingibergias are on the ground level. And there's a floret. They're actually, I like you can eat the flower or the root as well. I think it would be a great little garnish. It has a little bit of a gingery flavor. I've been eating them recently. But it's been flowering for about a month or so, and it'll continue for a few more weeks yet.
And what's the last name of the
Zingibergia myoga. It's a true ginger, like ginger root, which is the ginger root you buy in the store is Zingibergia officinale. This is a different species. Oh, this is considered the hardiest of them all. Supposedly zone 5 or 6, I think. I think at least zone 6. That has the flowers at the ground level. There's little flower stalks down there that they're on. So, but I think it tastes good too. Like I said, really good for a garnish, and the root is edible as well.
Does the root look like a officinalis?
I'm not sure. I haven't dug it up to tell you the truth. Okay, you're probably wondering why I have this thing in my hand here. This is the fruit. The first fruit I picked off our citrumella. It's a hybrid between a Citrus paradisi, the grapefruit, and trifoliate orange, which is Poncirus trifoliolata. This is a cultivar called Dunstan, which is considered the most edible of them. They're not overly edible. If anyone wants this one, they can have it. It's supposedly very similar to a grapefruit, but they recommend putting sugar on it. If anyone wants that, it's the first one. I just picked it a little while ago. I had to get a pole pruner to do it because it's very dangerous. If you go up there, as my volunteers here in the Asian Valleys will attest, that there are a few spines on the plant, and it protects itself very well. But we got our first flowers and first fruit on it this year, so that's our noteworthy for us here, since this is new and noteworthy. And this one, unlike Poncirus trifoliata, if you've smelled the flowers of that, there's really no fragrance. This smells like the traditional citrus flowers, and it's hardy to 5 degrees at least. So supposedly Dunstan has actually gone below 0 and survived, while most other citrus that actually have citrus blood, not just Poncirus, have not been hardy that cold. So, but if anybody wants a fruit, I don't eat grapefruit, so you can be the first one to try it. few weeks we'll have more.
I guess no one's daring enough.
No one's daring enough?
Well, take it off your hands if you can't find another taker.
Okay, here.
We just need a report.
I don't know. I'm assuming it's
I'll tell
right
you
being that it's
Thursday.
yellow. And then behind it, there's another citrus, which I think is supposedly even less edible, but it's a sour orange times the Poncirus. It's up further, and it has a little bit more of like a lawn-shaped fruit to me. And that's fruiting for the first time this year as well. Those were both about 3 or 4 feet tall when I planted them in 2009, so and they're about 10 to 12 feet anyways.
There's a chance they might cross-pollinate.
I don't know. Possibly if they were flowering at the same time. I don't know how often it happens, but I think most of these citrus or these hardy citrus, I think, are grown from seed. And so I think they come true reasonably well. So, but I don't know how they. You probably have to do a manually cross them to make sure that you're getting a cross. Probably to make sure that it's just not self-pollinating itself. I don't know if Mark talked about it, but today our Elizabeth Hadikim is looking rather spectacular over here. It's one of the pinkest of the ginger lilies, even though it's kind of a peach color, but it's considered pink. But I just had to mention that one as we're walking by. She looks extraordinarily spectacular today.
More praise lamp on this side.
Yeah. Hiding behind our little elephant ears. I think we're going to wander up through... Oh, that's not supposed to be flowering.
Well, it is.
We got some off-season flowers here too as we're walking through here. Our Corylopsis passiflora here, our buttercup witch hazel or winter hazel, I mean, has some blossoms. You can get them instead of waiting until January or February, late January, early February, March. And you can see some today. But we're going to wander up into the lath house since I think we have a small enough group. I always get questions about in the fall. Salvia Mexicana limelight. It's not new necessarily, but it's one that every September, October until frost, everyone asks, oh, what's that plant? And it's not a wonder with the Chartreuse calyx and that deep blue-purple florets. Just keeps on going. Hummingbirds love it, even though it's not red. The female hummingbirds will be there pollinating that or getting nectar from that here in the next couple of weeks as they migrate south. It's not overly hardy. Needs a little protection. We're going to try to go through the lath house here some. Since everything in here is basically new, excepting the one maple. But anyways, the first one here is one I actually bought this a couple years ago myself from Plant Delights, Tony Avent. I killed it promptly. It was during one of the dry years. I don't remember if it was 2007 or 8. One of those. It dried up promptly for me in my own garden. But I got one for the Arboretum, I think in July, and I planted it here. And this was in a quart pot, and it spreads. This is Impatiens Gouda. Blue Dream, and I'll pass a blossom around here. One of the ladies who works with us, Val Tyson, she says, that can't be an impatient. I said, yeah, it is. These have a cornucopia-shaped blossom, much like our native Impatien capensis or pallida. But this is an Asian one. It's flowering its head off right now. It has not had any heat issues. Some of the hardy Impatiens do not like our summers and will die to the ground during the heat of the summer, and then come up from the roots later when it cools off. And this one sprawls. It does not sucker, from what I can tell. It may root as it goes in a little bit, but foliage is just perfect. I don't know if anybody have heard there's a disease that's affecting the typical Impatien Wallerianas, which are like your busy lizzies, the old-fashioned Impatiens that you buy cell packs of. Those you're probably not going to find here in the next few years because they get a fungus called downy mildew. We've already had them. They go to pot in the annual trials already. We've got it in there. But this, I have not seen any spots of that on this. I don't think it's going to have any issue. But this is a perennial species, but I don't know how hardy. Tony's saying zone 8, so it could be from year to year. He's just guessing. I haven't checked to see if he has it in his garden or where he has it in his garden, but I don't care. It's a pretty nice plant just to even grow as an annual. And just in the last week and a half, it really started to go. It had a few blossoms for the last couple months, but it's just covered right now as far as I'm concerned. And it's just that pale lavender blue there and really nice foliage. And let's see, we'll head down this direction, I think. We'll see what we run into. Another plant here that's kind of new, and let's see, Mark, I don't think we changed the name of it. No, we haven't. We'll go that way, I guess, but is this Potocarpus macrophyllus. This is royal flush. There might be another name that's Japanese that I don't know yet, but we're checking to see if it might be a synonymous name, but it's just starting to reflush a little bit right now, but you can see this is grown for this burgundy new growth. As each time it flushes during the summer, it will have that coloration. It'll even be deeper at times. But this is just starting to get established, so it's not overly vigorous yet, but it will be here soon. But one to watch out for, maybe at the nurseries in the next couple of years, is that one. And I don't know if anybody else is growing Potocarpus, but I really like Potocarpus. They're very drought tolerant. They can be used for hedges. They can be used as a specimen plant like this. Will hopefully ultimately form into sun or shade. Everything but really wet soil, I think. It'll do just fine. And we'll venture down this direction and see what we can come across. Throughout the whole place, we have Mark's been collecting akubas recently, and here's just one that's Natsuno Kuma, which is a really pale new flush on it. There's numerous ones throughout here. There's a contorted leafed one down here. Can't say its name right offhand, but and there's some other ones. But we're trying to get a good collection of akubas going, so that's something to keep an eye out for here. So you're not just looking at that typical green with yellow flecks on the leaves. We're going for some of the less common ones. And to add on the potocarp there, we have a bunch of different potocarps throughout this new structure here, throughout the laugh house. And we're going to see what happens. Some of them are probably, we're pretty sure they are not going to make it through a winter. But we'll give it a try. We could be surprised. It won't be the first time that we'll be surprised. So this is one that Mark collected this species, though. This, I think, came from Atlanta, but he collected it in Taiwan, had no problems with the last couple winters in the garden, so very vigorous grower. Phormium. The phormium, I can grow them in here. I kill them in the rest of the garden. I think it deals with our drainage in here and just a little bit of shade that we get. It's filtered. The way the structure is done, we never get full blazing sun on any spot of the leaf for very long because the shade, the shadow keeps on moving, so the leaf never has time to overheat. I've tried them in other parts of the garden, actually right out here in particular at the intersection, and they fizzle out. They don't last. These are doing quite well in here, so we'll see what happens over the next couple years. See if they can make it through both a winter and a summer. That'll be the question. But the reason it's probably making it in here is our soil. I don't know if most of you probably haven't seen it, but it's not soil. It's a mixture of permatil fines from Stay-Lite Company, sand, pine bark, and Novozyme compost. And it is really cool stuff. I mean, you saw how I just picked that up. That doesn't pack. This has been in here since March, or end of February actually. We put this media in here. It won't pack, has excellent drainage, but it also holds water. So it has good air in it, so that's probably why the phormiums are doing well. It's kind of almost like a volcanic type soil for all intents and purposes. We got it pre-mixed from the Stay-Lite Company. We got the extras that were being used for some containers that were planted in one of the a town somewhere around here. I don't remember. Mark said where it was at. I can't remember at the moment, but that's what this media is primarily in here. It'll allow us to move the plants very easily later on, we're hoping as well. So we'll keep on venturing through here, see what we can find. This is one, this hydrangea, I don't get into hydrangeas very much, but it's not even flowering much, and I don't care. This is one you have to look at. This is one Tony Avent gave us. It's Hydrangea serrata. There's some fertile flowers here. Right now it doesn't have any sterile flowers, but if you look at the foliage, it has just a speckled gray-green with green mixed in on it. And it's just been a real tight little hydrangea. I would grow it just for its foliage. It'll brighten up a corner. We just received it from him as Hydrangea serrata and then chicory variegated. It's a descriptive name. It's not a cultivar. So we'll see what it does, but it's been really good in the in here so far this summer. And it's one I'd propagate. And like I said, I'm not big on hydrangea. I think we'll venture up this way. This is an Edgeworthia that we managed to get from Dan Hinckley. Don't know what it's going to do right now, but it is one he collected that has a pink throat. So it's not your typical just pure yellow. It's supposed to have a pink throat. So this is one just to watch over the next couple years and see what happens. I don't see any buds on it quite yet, but I'm hoping. I have a couple others planted in other spots of the garden, but this one's by far the most vigorous so far in the soil we have in here. This should be a really good spot for it because, like Daphne, if the drainage is can be an issue with the Edgeworthias, but not quite to the extent of the Daphnes, but it's still should be an interesting one here. So keep an eye on that one the next couple late winters, early springs, and see what happens. I've gotten lots of questions recently about a few of these plants. There's one over there. It's that one's an Elegia elephantopsis or something, or elephantipodes. I can't remember exactly. Elephant something. And then this is Elegia tectorum, which is they used to be lumped together. They are restios from South Africa. They kind of look like a horsetail. They're not weedy. They are actually more closely related to grasses and rushes. They're kind of halfway in between. But I'm liking them for their texture. I've had some of these this past winter, so it was mild, but we'll see. This is tectorum, and that one should be ones that have a chance of perennializing here in our climate. They should be evergreen, but it just gives you a different texture. You'll see some on the roof if you go out there, so if a little different. And turning around, there's one that I wish was hardy, but is, let's see, Rhodocoma gigantea, which is this one right here, which looks really cool and it's starting to grow now. But I lost this one last winter in a mild winter, so I don't have high hopes of this. But it would be really cool if it did make it. That's another type of restio. And throughout the or several spots in the laugh house, I have some Heebies, which Heebies historically have not made it here at all. I had about 7 or 8, maybe 10 that I planted in here this spring and summer, and I lost 3 of them entirely. There are 3 that they looked good early summer, and July they went downhill like overnight. So, but the other ones that have remained have done reasonably well, and this is one of them. This is I'll take that back. This is Weary Spears, which has one of the largest inflorescence of any of the ones that we have, and the largest leaves. But there's a few more on that side of the glass house that have done well. The foliage looks good. They are intolerant of our summer heat. Typically, our hot nights, they don't get a chance to recover. Typically, so that's why they've been an issue. And they're from New Zealand, which doesn't get hot, but it doesn't get cold. So the other issue is they can be tender to our winters, a lot of them. So these were some that we received from Oregon. I don't know if it's University of Oregon or Oregon State. I can't remember now. One or the other. We received them from Oregon a couple of years ago. And so we're going to see. I can keep them alive in the nursery. And I've kept some of them alive out here this summer. So I'm hopeful. But they're woody or shrubby species of Veronica, basically. But pretty cool. You see them, if you go to England, you see Heebies all over the place. And I did that last summer, and I really fell in love with them. So I have hopes for this one. Weary Spears. This next plant, I was talking about Impatiens earlier, excuse me, is Impatient Omiana Ice Storm. This is another one of the hardy Impatiens. This is one I was saying that our Gouda over there stayed up and did very vigorous all summer. This one seems to die down for me in the summer. I have 4 or 5 different clones of Omiana here in the bath house. So we're going to see how they do. But the nice thing about them, if they don't flower, it doesn't matter. The foliage on them can be quite attractive. This one here also has a silver speckling to it. There's some that have more mottled foliage. And one right here actually has more of a pink tint to it and a deep vein. And that's called silver pinka, actually. But they're ones to watch. They are stoloniferous, and you can see how this one has actually been already spreading a bit. So we'll see what happens to those in the next few years. There had been just some generic ones out and about in the trade, but these are some select cultivars now. So hopefully we'll find out how those will do in here as well. I'm sure Mark has showed this before, but this is the biggest one we have currently. And I have to point it out. New and noteworthy. This is both new and noteworthy. This is Fatsia Polycarpa. This is the Taiwanese version of Fatsia japonica, basically. It has this much more deeply cut incised leaf than that of Fatsia japonica, the Japanese Aurelia. And it's not widely available in the country, though I do know one nursery in the West Coast that is selling this. But this is wild collected from Taiwan in 2009, I believe, is when Mark brought this one. We have at least 3 different clones, maybe 4 now in the garden, so we'll see how they do. They have not had any issues with our winters so far, and this one has like quadrupled in size this summer here in the lath house. So I just encourage you. We're going to venture out of the lath house now, but I encourage you to wander around through here. You have a question?
We see a lot of ferns around.
Yep.
I'm just curious, what's the hardiest evergreen fern?
That I don't know. It's hard to say. The person that asked that would be Tony Avent of Plant Delights. He just gave us a whole collection of ferns in here, so we're going to see what happens in here. It's a lot that he's grown in his garden, and some that are newer, some he's collected throughout the world. I have some in here from South Africa. I have some a lot from Asia, American ones, European ones, New Zealand even. There's a Gouda over there, so we'll see. I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for too. The sizes, the shapes.
Just to live.
Yeah, to live. A lot of the one you typically the group that you can't go wrong with most of the time here that are evergreen are the curtomiums, the holly ferns. Those do really well here, and they'll often make little babies. You'll have sporelings coming up, and they look good most of the year. But probably the hardiest, if you're really wanting hardy, the native Christmas fern, Polystichum archdestroides or something like that. That one, I mean, it's evergreen where I'm from in Pennsylvania, so it's hardy here. So it grows in the woods here. Any other questions of anything that we've been walking around through in here? Since I actually really haven't asked of anybody. Okay. Yes.
What is this Nigella?
That's fine. That one's probably hardy zone 5 at least, if not 4. And it's made it through our summer here, which is the miracle. We got that cutting from the Pinkums. The Pinkums, and they're up
Georgia.
north of Norfolk, and they live right on the water. It gets really hot and nasty there. That's where we got the cuttings from. It's done great. Tony Avent was actually surprised that it did well for us. I mean, didn't have any issues, but super vigorous. I was questioning how well it would do. Yep.
This time last year I was in Archaria National Park up in
Okay.
Maine, and just noticed ferns everywhere. Just beautiful. I'm not exactly sure what kind they were, but they weren't green. They were turning.
Yeah.
Colors.
It's hard to say what they could have been. There's lots of ferns throughout the Northeast. There's like the New York ferns, which I can't think of the genera for that. Could be there's Thalepterus or deciduous. A lot of the Ethereums are just deciduous. Sensitive fern, which is an Ranunculus. There's quite a few different ferns that it could be. It's hard to say right offhand. Have to see them, and I'd have to remember to do look some things up, because it's been a while since I've done with our native ferns. I dealt with them too much, so.
Tim, does Nigeria?
I'll see if I can figure it out then.
Is Nigeria?
Oh,
new to
Nagia?
you? Nagia?
Yeah.
Is that new to you, and will it be a tree?
It's actually closely related to the Potocarpus. Excuse me. A large shrub, small tree. The biggest ones I've seen around here are about 10, 12 feet. Tony Avent has one in the breezeway between his office building and the garage where he does shipping from. But I have several in the garden that have done fine. There's 2 in Asian Valley that have been out multiple winters. There's one that's actually irregularly variegated over here, a blue leaf form, more rounded leaf. We don't know how hardy it's going to be. That's one I've had. That one's one from the Atlanta Botanic Garden that we got a seedling from them.
And they're evergreen.
They're evergreen. They have a crazy history. In the past, they were first classified as a myrca or a wax myrtle. They really didn't know what they were. But then they were put into Potocarpus, and then they've given them their own genera now of Nagia. But really cool foliage-wise as far as I'm concerned. Very unconifer-like. Yeah, there's a fuchsia there. That one I've actually seen. If any of you went on the open garden, to any of the open gardens, one of the ones I went to was the Maynard Garden, and they had that fuchsia this big in multiple places. I love fuchsias, and they don't typically like it down here. This is some breeding work out of Japan, and they've selected for heat tolerance. So there is hope. We just planted that one. We'll see how it does. So I'm optimistic because where I'm from in Pennsylvania, I can manage to grow Fuchsia Magellanica, which is very hardy and it will grow into zone 5. But I bring cuttings down here and they just shrivel up in the summer and die. So I'm optimistic about that one. I can't think of that one. The name I can't think of. It's a sand something. The label says its name. It's a nonsense name, so it doesn't really make sense. Any other questions before we get out of here? Oh, I have one I can talk about over. Actually,
Sorry, Tom.
As
You can go through.
I'm walking through more. This is another one of the Potocarps, hardy Potocarps here. This is Chartreuse, new flushed one here, gold crown. To go with that red leaf, the red needled one, royal flush. So just another one to mention as we're walking through here. And another conifer as we go out over here. I'll point out. I'm optimistic about.
Is that one that looks like a monkey puzzle?
Exactly. It's basically a monkey puzzle.
I saw piranha something.
This is Archaria angustifolia. The monkey puzzle is Archaria Arcana.
Okay.
And this is more heat tolerant. Archaria Arcana does not like our summers whatsoever. And it'll last a few years, and then all of a sudden one day it'll just turn brown and die. This is one we have more hope for. It's from Brazil, if I remember. Yeah, we have it labeled there as Brazil. Anyways, it's quite rare where it's native. It's been used as lumber extensively, very rot-resistant wood. But it's not quite as mean as monkey puzzle, but it's still not nice. But I've read information saying it can take down to like 5 below Fahrenheit, basically.
Wow.
But it also takes summer heat. Maybe the best of both worlds. So we're hopeful.
Yeah.
And to go add to that was the one I was going to talk about.
Oh, great.
To add to that, I have a hybrid one out here. A cross between Archaria Arcana and angustifolia.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see in the
look at the color of that
next
one.
couple of years. It was in a shaded greenhouse, so it just got planted out about 3 weeks ago. So we have some new plantings out here now in front of the lath house, since we have a front of the lath house instead of a muddy mess. So there's some interesting things I look forward to see grow. Hybrid magnolias. I don't even know a whole lot about it. I think that one's just a number. It doesn't even have a name. So my guess is it's a figo laevifolia hybrid is my guess. I'd have to probably ask the breeder to really know. We're going to wander actually out into the newer part of the garden, even newer part of the garden, and see what we can find out there.
So Tim, I had a monkey puzzle that got too large for the house, and I finally planted it outside.
And it died?
2 years ago.
Or not?
Last fall when it was so nice, warm winter. And
It's doing okay.
Yeah.
They'll last a few years, but I don't know, the biggest ones I've seen around here are maybe 10, 12 feet.
Okay.
I've tried to grow both of the species, and the angustifolia lasts the longest for me, but the hybrid is still going.
Okay, that's good. See, we're hoping for the best of both worlds for that hybrid.
The hybrid may be it, but time will tell.
Yeah, just planted, so we'll find out. The area we're going into now is what we're calling the oak grove. I have lots of oak species in it. It doesn't look like much yet. We just planted it in late May, early June. and things are in their sleeping stage. They haven't gotten to the creeping or the leaping. So it's very open yet, but it'll be interesting. There are things that you want to keep an eye on. It's the newest part of the garden, or one of the newest parts of the garden, and our interns actually helped plant it. So we'll see what happens. Since this is the new and noteworthy, this is some of the newest. It looks rather bare and forlorn at this point, but we'll see. See, my magnolias even got blown over. So. I have a couple eucalypts here. These were planted last year. I don't know how long they'll last. They might get taken out this winter. They might not. They might get blown over. They've had a little issue with that. They were a little pot bound when we planted them. Even despite trying to work on the roots our best, they tend to not like that. And so anyways, these two have survived. I lost several others in here. But some that are somewhat of note. This is a really cool oak. This is Quercus Cygnus, which is from Mexico. It's a species that has an acorn, just a little acorn, something like that big, I think. You know, it has the largest acorn of any oak, from what I understand. But it's from cloud forest, high elevations. So it might make it here, it might not. We'll find out this winter, or during the winter it will be the issue. It's grown fine so far this summer, which is good. It's actually put on in the last month and a half, it's put on that last foot of growth. So it's still getting established, but if it makes it, it could be pretty cool. It's only rated like zone 9, so we'll find out. Maybe even zone 10.
Is it supposed to be evergreen?
Yes, it's an evergreen species, but whether it will be here, who knows?
How old does it have to be before it produces acorns?
I don't know. It might be dangerous once it starts making acorns. If it falls like our regular oak trees, if it gets as big as the regular oak trees. I saw one of these actually in Kew, and they have one in their temperate greenhouse at Kew last summer. It was about 25, 30 feet tall, but I don't know if it was making acorns or not. And they had to prune the heck out of the thing. It didn't look like much. It wasn't pretty, but we'll find out, because it might make it through our summers and winters. That's the hope. Let's see what else we have in here. Over in here, this is a Castanopsis cuspidata. I remember, I think. Oh wait, Delavii, I'm sorry. Castanopsis delavii. It doesn't look like much yet, but this is a baby. We just planted it this summer again as well. This is another oak relative. That's why I have all kinds of oaks and oak relatives in this area, mixed among other things. That's where the Oak Grove is going to be the name of these beds. But this is one, we actually got this at the International Plant Propagator Society meeting, or Southern Region meeting last year. And Mark saw one of these, I think Coastal Botanic Garden in Georgia. I think is what it's called, but big one. It's a blue-green leaf, evergreen. It's one to keep an eye on. It can get quite large, 30, 40 feet tall from what I understand. So the Castanopsis, another one I'm anxious to see how it does. And over here, go onto a maple. This is one of the rarest maple species around. We don't need that anymore. Thank you though. These are packed right here. This is Acer pentaphyla, which, like I said, is considered about the rarest of all maple species. I Googled it, and I found an article by, is it McNamara? He was at the...
Bill McNamara?
Yeah, McNamara.
Quarry Hill Botanic Garden?
Yeah, from Quarry Hill. He actually, I think that's where these originate to some extent. We didn't get them through there, but it was in conjunction with Quarry Hill. But he went and found them after, I think in his article he says 15 or so trips it took him to actually find it in the wild. There had been only a few in cultivation prior to that, and there were less than 100 supposedly or something like that in the wild. But they've gotten several forms in China, in Sichuan area, I believe.
That's a species that Charlie Keith at his arboretum killed several times. But the last one he got, he put way up on the hill where there was no irrigation and very dry. It was flourishing.
So far I haven't had any issues. And we've had a wet summer. I have several. I have 5 or 6 in the garden right now, so we'll see. We got some. I think it was from Atlanta that we got them, but they did it in conjunction with Quarry Hill, if I remember correctly. But I have 6 or 7, or 5 or 6 different clones, seed selections. I don't know which they are right offhand. But if you look at it, it's really cool. The leaf, it actually has compound leaves basically. The leaf is divided almost the whole way down, and then it has this beautiful red petiole, and it has that all summer long. Very delicate. From when I was reading, it can get up to about 30 to 35 feet theoretically. Most of the time, it was saying about 9, 10 feet to 12 feet, roughly in that range. So a large shrub, small tree is what's more expected than the medium-sized tree. But kind of a cool plant to keep an eye on. Like I said, we have several of these in the garden. We'll see what happens. It hasn't had any issues with our heat. It's from over, it was in meters, so I think it was over about 9,000 feet, right? He was saying. So, I mean, that's pretty high elevation to be growing here even, but in China, that's our range of hardiness though. So,
Is this bed well drained?
this has a mixture of permatil in it. It's reasonably well drained. It will hold some water, but we amended this before we planted it. Our interns this past summer this is one of their first projects that we really got them to do. I had them bring out compost and permatil mix, and we spread it all over here, rototilled this, built up the paths, just to see what we could do here. So we'll see what happens. So you have another of the Archarias there being guarded by the mockingbird there. This is another interesting oak. This is a Quercus, let's see, this is Mercenites, and this is a Japanese cultivar, shimafu. It's a variegated one. We're starting to see it, the variegation showing up. When the leaves first come out, they're green, and then they age to the variegation. And also, it had been in a pot for a little bit too long, and it was a little nutritionally deficient, but it's really starting to grow now. We'll see what happens to this. It's really starting to show it now. Evergreen oak. I have lots of those in here. I like the evergreen ones, both Asian and South or Central American ones. Something different. So let's see. Oh. This is another Magnolia. I like Magnolias too. This is a Magnolia hybrid out of New Zealand. Let me see what its real name is. McJur01. You'll find it a fairy Magnolia blush, but it's Magnolia figo hybrid, I believe. They aren't saying you can't find anything for the patenting information. They have kept it somewhat of a secret as to what is involved on this one. But it's similar to a banana shrub, larger flower, pink, pale pink flowers though. So I'm curious. I haven't seen it flower yet, but we do have buds. So we'll start to get flowers probably next spring. I'm anxious to see what it turns out to. It's supposed to be a small, or large shrub, small tree, much like a banana shrub. So one to keep an eye on here in the next year or so. It will grow. Back to another maple. This is one, I believe, this is one that Dan Hinckley collected. Don't know how hardy this one's going to be either. We don't have a species on it right now, but it's similar to Faberi, but it's not Faberi. We're not exactly sure what it is, so we'll find out hopefully here in the next couple years if it's even hardy. But this should be an evergreen maple. We have several evergreen maples now, but not all of them are equally as hardy. Faberi's been the best for us. But we'll see. This is one, the man collected this, I think at Fancy Pants. There are Fancy Pants, Mount Fancy Pants, which I think is in the border between Vietnam and Thailand, if I remember correctly. So on one of the trips he collected that, but it has a nice red flush to it in the new growth. It is, the leaves look good right now. We'll see what it does in the winter. It may go adios this winter, or it may not lose a leaf and keep on growing for years to come. That's what we're hoping for, but see if we can find some more strange maples, because how many of those of you here would have guessed that was a maple? I would, but it's opposite leaves. Actually, that has That's strange. It has 3s. They don't very often have 3s. Well, that's strange. That might have thrown me. Anyway, this is an area to watch, this whole area here. Doesn't, like I said, does not look like much this year, but Asian Valley, which we walked through that first area, that I planted in 2009, and I can't believe how that has grown. So, so that's a relatively recent area, and then this is recent. So just some areas to look at over the next couple of years and look forward to. And even beyond that, we're starting on our monocot garden out there, which you can see some cannas out there, and we're going to put some more grasses and calyxes out there, and there's gingers and palms, and we'll have some aeroids. So that's an area to keep an eye on over the next couple of years. And this weedy patch down here below, that's hopefully going to be our new conifer collection that we're working on, and I'll hopefully get that done this winter. So those are some things to look forward to.
Now that weedy area is pretty wet, isn't it?
I'm going to have majorly raised beds.
Okay.
They're going to hopefully go up, that high in spots. That's why we built a wall behind the shade, perennial shade trials over here. So that's so I can build up the beds. So that's an area to keep an eye on. I have to get some dry weather so I can get media brought in there. I haven't been able to bring anything in there, so to build the beds up. But that's just a preview now. Things that were super recent. Oh, here's some of the dwarf buddleias. This is not Denny's, so there's a couple of them. I think there's 3 of them in here. These flutterbys, I believe.
Yeah.
These are ones to keep an eye on. Some of the dwarf ones that aren't Denny's that might be worth trying. So, anyways, I hope that was somewhat informative.
Got irrigation.
This has been in here.
Has it?
Before 2 years it's been in here.
Oh, nice.
We just finally got something planted. So I hope I didn't bore anybody. Any questions?
Those 2 salvias that are down
Yes.
there, are they, do you know if they're hardy yet? Or?
I don't, let's see, what's this one? This one should be, Tony has sold this one. Which one is this? This is mulberry jam. This one should be, this is an Amolia crata. That should be hardy. And that's lineata. I'm not sure how, I might have it in too moist of a spot. I don't know yet, but it's doing okay where I have it right now. So we'll see, it'll be our winter. If it's too damp, it might take them out. We'll see. But I like that, I didn't point it out, but lineata over there. That's kind of an orangey red blossom. I really like that. Yeah, very long tubular flower, hummingbird pollinated, of course, but fuzzy leaves. So, but I have a feeling it might want better drainage than I have right there. Any other questions? That little one right there, the Magnolia virginica times Cygnus. Excuse me. We have another one. This is seed grown from a different cross, but the one that we have in the garden already is probably about 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet tall. And it's been. I moved it. It's right there at the gate going back to the staff building. I moved it in 2008, I think. I think that's when it was. I moved it.
What does insidious mean? Because you got an oak.
I'm not sure.
Insidious.
I don't know. They're not even. I mean, this is Asian. That's American, Central American, Mexican.
That's an oak, and this is a magnolia.
Magnolia. I'm not sure what insidious translates to. What it refers to. Mark might be able to tell you that one. But I'm hoping. What we're hoping for is another evergreen, a little hardier evergreen magnolia with pink blossoms is what they're hoping for out of that. So.
Bill Smith's from
yes, that's where I think that one came from.
Virginia.
You're looking at the Abelia? Yeah, this is actually a new Abelia, and I should say something about this one. This is one we're promoting. This was a mutation of Little Richard, found by Richard Kearns, yes, I believe his nurseryman here just south of Raleigh. And I think he's the one who found Little Richard too. But anyways, he selected this one. It has, I called it Frosty, and we're going to start promoting this one through the Arboretum. We just got some labels printed, and it's going to, the local nurseries, for the Johnson County in particular, they're going to be purchasing labels from us, which we make a little profit, so it's going to help us make some money, hopefully, for the Arboretum. So we're starting a line of plants that we're going to be doing this with. We have 3 that hopefully by next spring will be out and available. Frosty will be one, hopefully, I'd say early summer.
These will be out right now, aren't they?
Didn't have a whole lot of these ready.
What's up?
So, but it's a new one, and he selected it has a twist in the leaf. So if you look at it, it's the way it's curled.
Oh,
So he actually selected it for that.
It's really cool.
And it has not burnt in full blazing sun. And it also has these red stems on the newer growth. And I think it has a nice transition. The blossom is white.
What's the nurseryman's name?
Richard Kearns.
Where's his nursery?
It's on down.
Near 95?
No, it's down on Old Stage, south of Raleigh, south of Garner, down near Tony's actually.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a new one to look out for. I haven't planted one in front of the lath house too, so we'll see how they do. But I'm liking the red stem or the reddish stems in contrast to that white foliage.
How long did it take for it to get this big?
We got it as I think that was a 3 gallons that we got this spring, and it didn't get planted until May or late May, early June. It hasn't grown a lot, but it's grown some. So that's what they're going to hopefully sell them as, I believe, a 3 gallon for the most part. Any other questions while we're still here?
Good. No. Well, thanks for a great tour, Tim.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which one do you find here?